Hello, everyone. How are you doing today? I hope you're having a nice day, keeping safe during CPI. Hello, Nika. Good to see you again. Alright, guys, I have a streaming mode enabled, so I cannot see all the names. Let me disable it. Yeah, now I can see your names. BCHHN, ES5 Endo Mike, Nonstop Tilted, X-Man, and this one I can smash. Um, so, how's it going, guys? What do you want to cover today? Any new people who just joined this week? Please raise your hand. Hey, X-Man, sure, we can do that. So the question is, hoping for clarification of what windows in DLNs to use data from in order to plot them on charts. So we can do that. Let's see. I mean, today's not a great day for finding good examples, but maybe we can do the ODR session during for ES. Sounds good? Okay. So let's do the ODR session for today. People can see my screen, yes. So let me make it a little bit bigger. So when do we have a confirmation on ODR? 4:55. If we go on DR Lens, which I will open now. Let me check whether it's, oh no. 1 second, guys, I need to fix this. Oh, there you go. So ODR session. So we click here. We actually don't do that. We untick this one because today is a news day. Select the ES. Select the date. Today is Wednesday. We always select true and we have a long confirmation and just switch back for a second on trading view. The confirmation was at 4:55. We switch back. 4:55 means between 4:30 and 5. And that's what you get, right? Everybody following? Hello, DXI asshole. Welcome. And non-stop title as well. Okay, people following, great. So what do we look at? First thing first, we'll look at the time of retracement. So this is not the nicest, right? Because we can see the max retracement time happens a lot in the last 15 minutes of the session. But we can still work with it because we see this little cluster here and we see this spike. So we could potentially have two entries, one after 5:15 or at the start of the 5:15 candle on TradingView. And then we could also plot something after 6:30, right? The other thing we look at, so we look at time first, and then we look at the retracement area. So obviously we have a clear outlier here. Well, not outlier, but a clear spike in the distribution between 0 and 0.1. And if you look at the other charts as well, so this one is the most important. So let's see if this is important also in the other chart. So you look at the median max retracement, it's also important, but there are other levels as well. But let's start to try and make something out of this. So first time cluster 0 before 5:15. So from 4:30 to 5:15. So back to here, and we go in replay mode, right? Mhm. 30 to 0510. And then we said the second cluster was 6:15 to 6:30. 0 to 0 plus 1. So let me read. Non-stop tilted, I joined over the last week too. How do you relate it to max extension time cluster when max extension and max retracement have about the same cluster in the morning session? Oh, sorry, guys. Okay, let me show you what I did. So, drive 2.0, retracement 4:30 to 5:10, retracement second time 6:15 to 6:25, retracement area 0 to 0.1. LP, I think, yeah, it's the first message of the pin messages. Have a look. Just reply to the message. Have a look at the image, and that should be clear. So time today is not really nice, right? In terms of distribution on DLNs. Usually what we like to see is a big spike, a big cluster around this area, and then a gradual decline, a falling off in the other areas. So today is not the nicest, like this session that we selected is not the nicest. I mean, it's a Wednesday on news days. Like, for example, if I tick this one, the picture doesn't change that much, to be honest. But you can still see that this is quite relevant, right? So what we're looking at in the retracement before the high of the session, we're trying to pinpoint the retracement before making a new high, right? When you look at the maximum retracement, absolute maximum retracement, that is a retracement that can happen at any time. It can happen at the end of the session. It can happen same as this retracement, or it's you have less certainty of what happens afterwards. Whereas if you focus on this one first as your number one priority, you you know that if this happens, if this is true, then you're going to see a new high, right? Because by definition, this is the retracement before the high of the day. LP, you don't know if the max extension already happened. That's you can only know at the end of the session. but we're playing probabilities. Uh, I have a question. Let's say I want to do Asian session today. Do I have to uncheck the news box? No, you don't. Uh, no, you don't because so you you have to uncheck because tomorrow is also news. Yes, correct. But it has nothing to do with the fact that the day starts in one day and finishes in the other day, right? So the Asian session, as you call it, the ADR is still the one from today is still as of Wednesday, even if it starts from Tuesday, if you know what I mean. So if the news day is on Wednesday, the fact that the session started on Tuesday technically, but finished on a Wednesday, it doesn't make it so that it's a Tuesday, so there's no news on Tuesday. It's still a news day. Ali 85, isn't it better just to use the high of session, low of session, as that's the last retracement before our target? Yes, that's what we are trying to teach people now. But you still look at the relevance of the clusters in in each of the three charts, right? You try to see whether there are specific areas that overlap with each other, right? Because when they overlap, it means they are coinciding, right? Some days the retracement, the max retracement is the same as the retracement before the high, and some days the retracement after zero point 0.5 is the same as the retracement before the high. So overlapping areas tells you yes, this happened and it happened in all of three, and so that's why it's good. Um, so that's how we use the three charts, but the most important one is the retracement before the high. Non-stop titled, how do you handle when the times are so similar? Would you expect the high probability trade to move fast after retracement? Yeah, so when you see a distribution like this is not high probability whatsoever. So I think you cannot play time alone. This is just an example from today, and it's a news day, so it's not. We would have not traded the ODR anyway. That's the rule we have, but it was just to make an example. So back to the chart. Let's see what happens. So back to the chart. This is what I plotted as a very kind of the point sticking out, right? So let me just go forward. Oh, and sorry, let's do another thing first. In terms of extension, 1.2, 1 to 1.2. Let's see, 1.2 would be around here. Yeah. So actually, so far, this has been respected, right? So we have a confirmation. This is the max retracement so far until here. Then this becomes the max retracement. People are following. Now this becomes a time maximum retracement, but it's still within the cluster, right? This is still within the area. And then price goes. So you see how combining, like in a day like this, where time doesn't tell us much, but price retracement told us a better story, right? If you go back to the lens, time is ugly, right? We don't know. It could happen at any point, like it happened today. But this is very clear, right? Do you agree, guys? 0 to 0.1, it's a very clear spike. So that's how you use both. Time doesn't tell you a good picture, and this is usually because of the news, right? In preparation for the news gets released at 8:30 on a Wednesday. Wednesday is a day full of news. You have a CPI, you have a FOMC, sometimes you have PPI. No, PPI is on Thursday. Um, but yeah, Wednesday is a big news day. But like this is actually very beautiful, like this is actually, turning out to be correct again. So, you know, nice showcase of how to combine time and price areas. So let me catch up with the chat. How do you handle when the times are so similar? I already answered that. I understand that it does not apply today, but a scenario that can happen, no, so theoretically. If the retracement cluster ends at 5:15 and extension ends at 5:30, how would you treat that? What would be your expectation? So we don't care as much about the extension time cluster. We actually don't look at them as much. What we care about is we don't really care when the extension happens in our case. Like what we try to pinpoint the entry by looking at the maximum retracement. But today, like this session, I think it's a really nice example of how to use this outlier in the data to say, well, this is a probable area for an entry. Yes, LP, the stop would be, I would say, 2 tick below the IDR. Or let me see if there is anything else. Yeah, there is a gap imbalance here as well. Beautiful. Yeah. So whenever you see these kind of rejections to the tick, this is very precise. You see one rejection, two, three, four, five, then it goes below, then it goes above immediately reclaimed, then immediately reclaimed, and then it goes. This is also here before it was just bouncing off this level to the tick. So this is a nice area where you can enter at the DR line, put your stop 2 ticks below here. And yeah, but obviously it's not recommended to trade during CPI because the opposite could also happen. This candle could just do this and your stop might not even get filled, right? You can get, like, say you have your stop here, or even break even, your stop is break even, and you think you're safe. Then CPI comes out and it just goes here, and without it doesn't even fill your stop, and your stop gets filled here. That could potentially wipe your account. So that's why we don't trade during news days. When we use the DRC as a key area to address the confluence, how many days do we normally go back for? The DRCs, they stay valid for forever, pretty much, and it's not a matter of what date range is valid. It's a matter of is price respecting those levels. So what we do is we turn on the DRCs. Second, guys. And we just we just look for rejection to some specific levels. You can see like this one to the tick, then it gets blown away by our news, and then it goes to the next one here. So you just use your eye and you check whether some levels are respected or not. So who was asking about how to use the lens data? Non-stop tilted. Is it clear now? Oh, sorry. Uh, it was Xman 007. Target for this trade, which is not recommended to take, would have been 1.2 based on the lens, so around here. Uh, 1.1 to 1.2. Obviously, someone can also trail the stop. Time. No. Uh, That's because I need to go back to replay mode. There you go. Target would be here. Let's say you take the trade on the DR line, put your stop 2 ticks below the IDR. Target here, still a 5.5 hour trade. The grandpa setup the same. The grandma is about the stop level. Grandma means lazy, very safe stop. Um, for example, a grandma stop would be here, would be like 1 tick below this level. This would be a grandma stop. If you enter here and put your stop like 1 tick below IDR, that is like a very aggressive nephew stop. Whereas when we talk about grandma, it's about the being comfortable with your trade and very safe, very boring. Obviously, if you have a nephew stop, with just 1 tick here, you're living on the edge, right? If we zoom in, I mean, there was plenty of space here in the end, but yeah, sometimes when you buy multiple contracts and you're really living on the edge if you put a stop like this. But obviously today it would have worked, and you make much more R's. You see 7.6 R's versus what was it, 4.5 R's. Or if you use a grandma stop, then yeah, it's a boring 1 to 2. It's 2 to 1, 2.3 to 1, almost borderline. You cannot take it this, but you could probably argue that you should go for the DRC and just trail your stop after you reach target, because this is what we call the autobahn. Whenever you see white space, between where price is and the blue lines, you know that this area is likely to be covered by price in a relatively short time. When you see a lot of kind of, let me find a good area. What happened? For example, if you are between here, like there's no much white space, and usually price gets stuck between levels. But then as soon as it breaks out, you see here that it was free to go. Or even here, you see, like we formed the Tuesday DRC level yesterday, and look how quickly price went up because there were no level here. So that's why we call them Autobahns, which is a German for motorway. Yes, exactly. Grandmas do like to keep us safe, yes. The M25. Do you live in the UK, Nika? Okay, so any other things you guys want to clarify? In the tropical south. Yeah, I live in London too. Some people might argue it's not UK, but or it's not England, like we found out last week from Twist. Yeah, I prefer other kind of tropical areas as an Italian, but so target is a cluster to the left of the median. Yes, either that or the median itself, I would say, because they are equal size. So 1.1 to 1.2, that's kind of between. Say 1 to 1.1 is strictly by the rules. That's the right target. Okay, so let's see. Anybody's asking. Any other questions on this, guys? What's going on with crude today? Let's see some currencies. Slightly off topic, my broker doesn't allow trading for SP 500 or crude oil. Is there a preferred broker that does? Um, what do you mean my broker doesn't allow? Like, do you mean you cannot trade the SPX? Or do you what kind of broker do you have? Do you have a CFD? Do you have a funded account? Um, because the SPX nobody can trade. It's an index that is not tradable. Oh, and that doesn't allow SPX trading, funded account. Yeah, so nobody can trade the SPX directly. You can you can trade options on it, but if you want to trade if you want a tradable instrument, then obviously you need to use ES. But I'm not sure about the specifics of Oanda, but what we do recommend in the academy is interactive brokers. The only downside with interactive brokers is the minimum account size, because if you want to trade one contract on the ES, you need at least $9,000 of margin. There are some other brokers like AMP Future, AMP, and the minimum margin is much lower. So, I personally use interactive brokers. Masters also use interactive brokers. He's been using it for over 20 years. It's a very safe and trusted broker. But as I said, the downside is you need to have a slightly bigger account size. Since we are on that topic, what is the symbol of CL on MFF? I think MFF is a funded account. Usually what was it? The the funded account, the symbol should be US oil or oil something. You need to Google what's the CFD, but like I mean crude on F. Yeah, if anybody here uses funded accounts, maybe they can let you know. But I don't I don't know what they use. UK oil, US oil probably. Yeah, US oil. Axeman, yes. CFD, that's the way to go. Obviously, it's a bit less cleaner. Um, and my recommendation to you is even if you're trading the CFD, so for example, US 500, for example, this one, it's a CFD, right? So the chart would look pretty much, it will be very similar, but some of the levels, like if you turn on drip, it will have kind of different areas. So the recommendation is always to do your analysis on ES. Say that you want to enter at the DR line, for example. Say I want to enter here, but sorry, I'm doing it the wrong way. I'm going on ES here. I want to enter at the DR line. I pre-plan my trade at NSA. I want to put my stop 2 ticks above the IDR, so it's a 4-point stop. This entry will not be the same as the one on the US. So if you look at the price here, 4507, It's 4471. So you will see those two are different, right? But what you do is you wait for the real chart to, for your entry signal, like whenever price gets to this level, you execute on your CFD, and you need to put roughly 4 points of stop on your CFD account. And 4 points of stop would be here, which is roughly, just above the IDR, like we have on the other. So that's how you do it. You see, this is already much closer to the DR line than ES. ES has a bit more space. Or even better, given that you're not trading the ES, you can just do it on the... SPX looks different today. Look at that. SPX is already above the IDR. I guess you need to use the ES. Any other questions on instruments, tools? Yes, we do. Non-stop tilted. It's very important to look at both. I mentioned yesterday during the streaming, I don't know if you were listening to it, but the SPX is the mothership of price that's happening on the ES. Because that's the index of all the underlying stocks. So that's the real price action of the individual stocks in the S&P 500. Whereas this is kind of derivative instrument of the SPX. So they still move the same. The chart will look roughly the same, but for example, today it looks a little bit different. But when they move in the same direction. Since we're talking about oil, we should use the US one, right? I think so. I think the US is the equivalent of the crude. If you have time, can you show us some time-based entry? Yes, we can do that. Let's see, crude today, ODR. ODR usually is not super nice for crude, but let's see what can do. Crude oil, ODR Wednesday confirmation, long at 435. So let me switch to the lens for a second. So that's the data for crude today, Wednesday, true long 4:30 to 5. Look at the time. The mode is the mode to the left. The real mode is here, but the mode to the left. So if you split the distribution in half, then you take the mode to the left, which is 4:45 to 5. So back to trading view, replay mode, drive, tracement 0445 to 0455. That's the mode. So a time-based entry would be at the end of this candle, at the open of the next candle. So we're currently 450, next candle, time is over, 455. We enter a trade now, buy, put our stop below the maximum retracement, which is here. This is the maximum retracement for the day. So entry here, stop 1, 2 tick below here. Target the lens 1.6 is the median. So we take 1.3 to 1.4. Three, four. Sorry guys. So 32. So that's how you would do a time-based entry. Obviously, the risk reward is not good enough. 2 to 1. Then you get stopped out. Trade is over. I think Ali, you mean for the backtesting, but that's how you perform it, right? I decided to focus on the quick start videos and some backtesting before joining back the lives. Any input about that? Yeah, that sounds like a very good plan, but make sure to if something is not clear, that's you feel free to ask me all the questions and asking in the relevant chats, like if people can help you or if people are not responding to you, then you feel free to tag me in the conversation and I will try to get back to you as soon as possible. But yeah, watching the quick start is a nice way to start. The absolute best way would be to start from the very first live session we had in end of January and watch every single live to X speed. Skip the parts where nothing is happening. You can get through all the live sessions in a month. Many people have done it, and many people are very grateful that they have done it. It's not easy, it's not the easy way, but it's the most effective way because that's how people learned back then. There was no content when we opened it, right? There was only the lens. And, slowly but surely, we built up, the lessons, the live education M7 was doing, and that has become, you know, part of the teaching. Obviously, in the background, we're working to streamline, make everything better and more accessible. But yeah, if you ask me what is the most effective way, would be to go back from day one and pretend you joined in January, watch every single live session. The middle ground would be to watch every single quick start video. Good to know. Non-stop tilted. I mean, you are MSc student, and so you have access to absolutely every video in the academy, so you're not gonna miss anything. Because MSc students have access to 3 lives per week, and they also have access to all the previous 3 lives during the week. Whereas a BSc, for example, they can only see the 2 live per week, and they can also only see the past live sessions that were open to BSc. So make the most out of it. Okay, I feel like there were not many questions today. Is it is it me, or people are picking up more concepts and everything is a bit more clear, or we don't have as many new people? The person who was asking about the retracement before the high, is it clear now after watching the picture that I posted? Let's see my message. Oh, LP. Yeah. Okay, good. MG, welcome. Thank you for chatting with us and letting me know that you're here and you're new. There's a lot of information, of course. It's like drinking from, how do you say, fire hose, the fireman thing, firefighter thing. A lot of information at once can hurt your mouth if you're trying to drink from there. LP going to start the 2 weeks time-based entry exercise tomorrow. Great. And guys, one for the time-based entry, one thing to make sure to do it in an organized way is to select one session, meaning RDR, ODR, one instrument, ES, crude light, currency, whatever you decide to use, one time bucket, and one day of the week, and you go back. So you select the scenario on the lens. That's how the data looks like. That's how the mode looks like. And you backtest, for example, all the Tuesdays RDR for ES, first bucket confirmation. And you do it for all the Tuesdays. So you go Tuesday, go back, Tuesday week before, go back, Tuesday week before, and so on. That's a bit quicker rather than you do Tuesday, then you go Monday, you need to re-click all the data on the lens. Then you go Friday, you need to click and select all the data on the lens. So that's the fastest way. So you start with one scenario and until you do you collect at least 30 or 40 data points of that scenario, which means you will go back 1 or 2 years, and then you repeat for a Tuesday, sorry, for a Wednesday or another day, until you do all the week like that, and then you can change instruments. LP, thank you for pointing it out. That live session is so good. I still remember it. Twist, who joined us last week, he made 2 motivational videos out of that. That's how good it was. And it's funny because sometimes M7 goes on a rampage talking about this very, these things, very deep, or sometimes he's very, emotional and he's telling, something very important. And then people make video out of it or a short video out of it with some music in the background. And then when he sees that, he says, when did I even talk about this? It was, yeah, it's funny. But there's so much stuff that the man shares. It's that's why I recommend to watch every single live, because there's always some gem hidden there. Yeah, DR Mind week. So the week where we had a lot of news, and when M7 decided to focus on DR Mind because he noticed some people were struggling with some of the mindset, and we had a few students coming on stage talking about their situation. I think that was insane good, insanely good. All right, guys, I don't mind chilling a little bit more with you, but if you have any other questions, I'll be happy to answer those. Otherwise, we can keep chilling. Texas Jason, M7 mentioned when we backtest to also re-engineer. Would you show some re-engineering that we should do with our backtesting? Yeah, so re-engineering is nothing else than looking at the fact after everything happened and come up with confluences that you could have noticed during the trade, obviously based on things that were known to you at that time, and say, oh, what if I paid attention to this whip? What if, so I got stopped out here. What if there was a whip below here and I put my stop 2 ticks below this whip? Kind of being aware of what could have made your trading result better. That's exactly what re-engineering means. So in this case, for example, we got stopped out here, right? I could look at the airlines data, whether there was a specific time cluster at between 5:15 and 5:30, um, or I could say, I could wait for the close above a second rejection. Let's see a few more candles. Like find, or like you could look at previous DR levels, or we can turn on drip fib here. So obviously here there was a VIB that got closed and then came back down here. There was the 50 line, so watch, like price never reached the zero point 0.5 line, so you could think, okay, I guess stopped out, but is there a way to re-enter here? So you look and you see price then trying to go above here and then bounce back of this VIB again. So you think, okay, maybe I re-enter here, I put my stop here, and so on. It's like it's more of an art, but it's for you to notice things. That's what, for example, Anand, the PhD student, is doing, and that's how you notice things that you don't even see in the first place. Tak, Maggie, can you provide a written description for each subject? What subject? Tak, my link failed to open. So, for example, if I were to re-engineer this one, I can see open volume imbalance here that needs to be, is still magnetic, so it means price is likely to touch back again there. So let's see, you can see it's bouncing off the zero point 0.5 line. Then it goes. Obviously, this was an important level, 0 0.5, you know it's important. Obviously, you need to look at the DR lens data as well. Here you can see there was another DR line from the previous session and the open price from the previous session here. You're welcome, Texas Jason. Nice price action. Time-based entries, you use the time-backed cluster for all data, or do you adjust it to the data before each day in the backtest? So you have the functionality of adjusting the data in the lens, so you can filter the data so that you see the distribution as if you were trading that day live, so without the futures data. So, for example, if you're backtesting some data from last week, you can also on DLens. If I show you my DLens, I can go here and can say before a chosen date, and I can say before, if I'm backtesting, for example, Thursdays, I can say I want to see the data before this date so that I don't show futures data. So I don't show the outcome that I didn't know at that time. Um, so if you change it for every day you do, that's a bit cumbersome. But a nice trick is you can look at the distribution like this for the scenario, and then you say, well, this is the mode, right? Well, let's do it for RDR. This data is a bit nicer. So this is our mode. We could say, okay, how far back can I go when this changes? So if I go, for example, in 2021, you still see that, you know, these two clusters are still relevant, right? So you could say in your backtest until 2021, you can use the same scenario and it is not going to change. You just verified that this case was true also as of 2021. check the links to the quick start. So guys, I don't know why it doesn't work for you, but you click and you click, and then it works. Does it help? Non-stop title? Tilted, sorry. Another trick I want to show you guys on the lens. You can also do last trading days, and you can say I want to see the data for the last 750 trading days. Let's change some instruments. Yes. This will show you more recent data. So need to double check this. Doesn't filtering seems odd. Crude. So you can check how the distribution changed. So from most recent data to including like up to 2 years of data. But you can see the pattern of the retracement area. So that's why we use a distribution, right? I mean, you can still have days where the value falls here, falls here, falls here, but you see the pattern that constantly there's always a predominance of this area in this time. So that's why this time is very relevant for us. That's why we use um, the time mode to enter our trades. Any more question, guys? My personal minimum requirements. I like to see. Well, usually we don't have issues with first and second buckets, but as soon as you start going into third confirmation bucket, then it gets a bit more tricky. So that's why I stick to the first two buckets. So the first hour. Like this is still fine, right? I would think, but this, not really. I mean, you can still trade it and say, well, maybe this time is relevant, but you'll figure out that this time in crude is always very relevant. There's always some spike, especially if you look at the extension. Look at this time for 2 to 230, 215 to 230, 215 to 230, 215 to 230. Excellent LP. I'm glad to hear. Yeah, we don't really use like it's a nice to have feature, like to see the last X days, but yeah, 30 would not cut it, right? It was just to make a point to show you how the distribution changes, but I would never use the last 30 days. Most of the time we just keep the entire data set, or if we want to do the back testing like you were doing, you would do before a chosen date, or you could say after 2010, for example. But yeah, I would not use this feature to come up with back testing solutions. You see, this is just too sparse. Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's 30 could be nice, or 30 could be awful because it's equally distributed. But even if you have like 20 and there are like 15 out of 20 that are in the first two buckets or in the first 30 minutes, I would call it still relevant, right? That's what I mean. So, so the recommendation is use your judgment, use your eyes. If something looks like standing out to you, then you can still use it, even if statistically speaking, is not 100%, correct. I mean, not saying it's not correct, but like if a statistician, professional statistician could say, you don't have enough data points. But the thing is, we're not trying to estimate, to find out about the causality here. Like we know that these levels, the DR levels, the retracements, happens at a certain time. A lot of the time, maybe there is a reason why they happen there. We're not trying to derive some, trading system. We know that these levels are important for the algo. That's how we use our data, right? We know that the direction of the day is set in stone after the confirmation. So we are just looking, okay, how much do we usually retrace when we confirmed when the day looked like this? And that's why everything is standardized in, we are using standard deviations. Everything is in relation to the size of the IDR so that you can compare dates very far apart. And also when price is very different, when price was 1,000 points, the a 10-point retracement will look different than a 10-point retracement here. So that's why we use SD lines. Maybe, when price is at 1,200, a 10-point retracement could be all the way up here. But here, 10-point retracement is barely scratching, the zero retracement level. So that's how you compare the two. And I think this is quite a unique. You don't find this approach anywhere else in trading, retail trading. Okay, guys, it's been nice talking to you. And if you don't have any other questions, I'll see you tomorrow during the live session with M7 and with me on Wednesday next week. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Nonstop Diet Tilted. Thank you, Nika. Thank you, LP. Thank you for your very good questions. Keep learning, keep improving every day. Keep asking good questions. And I'll see you next week. No problem, LP. Bye bye.